free. She had imagined life would look different by now. Marriage, maybe. A family. Or at least someone who made birthdays feel less quiet. Instead, she had gone through heartbreak just months earlier, and though time was moving forward, her heart seemed caught somewhere in the past. Still, she wasn't the type to let sadness win entirely. She had a resilience about her, a gentle strength that kept her standing, even when the ground beneath her felt uncertain. The waitress, a young woman with a kind smile, approached her table carrying a small plate. On it sat a chocolate cupcake with a swirl of white frosting, and a single candle pressed into the center. "Happy birthday," she said softly, placing it down. "You deserve a wish." Emily blinked, surprised. She hadn't told anyone, but the cafe had her birthday saved in their loyalty app. She gave a shy laugh, her cheeks warming. "Thank you. That's really sweet." The waitress nodded, giving her space. Emily stared at the tiny flame flickering in front of her. For a long moment, she simply watched it dance, her heart pulling in two directions. On one hand, she felt foolish making wishes like a child. On the other, she wanted desperately to believe in something magical, something beyond the routine of ordinary days. She closed her eyes. Inside her chest, words rose uninvited, fragile but insistent. "I wish for love, real love. The kind that doesn't fade or leave. The kind that stays." She blew out the candle, the flame vanishing in a soft curl of smoke. For a moment, the cafe felt strangely still, as if even the rain had paused to listen. She tucked the wish away inside her heart, unsure if she had just spoken to the universe or simply to herself. Emily reached for the fork, breaking off a piece of the cupcake. The sweetness was simple, comforting, like a small reminder that life still had flavors worth noticing. She ate slowly, letting her eyes wander over the cafe. Couples leaned close at nearby tables, sharing quiet conversations. A pair of friends laughed together, their voices carrying above the hum of background music. Life seemed to move around her, vibrant and connected, while she sat watching from her corner. But Emily wasn't bitter. She had always believed that life had seasons, and this was simply one where she was meant to stand still, to breathe, to learn what it meant to keep going, even when the picture wasn't perfect. Yet deep down, she hoped this season would end soon. She hoped the wish she made wasn't just a candle's trick. She set her fork down, folded her hands in her lap, and let her gaze rest out the window. The rain had slowed, leaving the streets shimmering under the glow of passing cars. She thought about the little girl she used to be, the one who believed birthdays were magic, and that every year promised something new. She missed that girl. She wanted to believe like her again. As she sat there lost in thought, she didn't notice at first that someone across the cafe had been watching her. A figure, quiet, thoughtful, someone who seemed to recognize not just her face, but something deeper, her presence, her essence. She shifted in her seat, unaware that her birthday wish might have already started working in ways she couldn't imagine. Emily checked her phone, scrolling past messages. There were a few texts, one from her mother, one from a cousin, and an email from her workplace she decided not to open. No missed calls. No surprises. She sighed and placed the phone face down. She wasn't angry about it. Life had simply gotten complicated for everyone. Still, she couldn't help but feel the sting of silence. She lifted her coffee cup, warming her hands on the sides, and let the night stretch around her. Though quiet, there was still comfort here. The cafe lights glowing softly, the hum of conversation in the background, the rain-soaked city outside reminding her that she wasn't truly alone. Somewhere out there, life was weaving stories together, and maybe hers was just waiting for the right moment to shift. She leaned back in her chair, closing her eyes briefly, letting the rhythm of the cafe calm her restless heart. For the first time that day, she felt at peace. Not happy exactly, but hopeful. And that, she decided, was enough for tonight. What she didn't realize was that her birthday would not end quietly. The wish she made over a tiny cupcake had already sent ripples into her life, ripples that would soon reach her in ways she never expected. Because just a few tables away, someone had stood up, slowly moving toward her with a look of recognition in his eyes and a question on his lips. Her quiet celebration was about to become the beginning of something that might change everything. "Emily?" The voice came softly from behind her. Hesitant yet filled with certainty, Emily turned, her heart skipping as if it had stumbled into another time. Standing a few feet away was Daniel Harper. His name formed silently on her lips before she even spoke it aloud. "Daniel." He smiled, the same crooked smile she remembered from long nights in the college library. Back then, he was the one who made even the hardest exams feel like adventures. The one who carried coffee cups in both hands so she wouldn't fall asleep on her notes. Years had stretched between then and now, but in a single heartbeat, the distance seemed to vanish. She rose halfway from her chair, stunned. "What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," he said, his voice warm but carrying a nervous edge. He gestured toward the empty chair across from her. "Mind if I sit?" Emily nodded quickly, still processing the shock. Her pulse was racing, her thoughts tumbling. She had wondered about him over the years, where he'd gone, who he had become, why he had never called again after graduation. Now, suddenly he was here, looking older, sharper, but still carrying the familiar softness in his eyes. Daniel sat down, brushing rain from his jacket. "I just got back to Seattle. Haven't been here in years. I stopped in for coffee and then I saw you." He laughed lightly, almost in disbelief. "I thought my eyes were playing tricks." Emily studied him. His hair was shorter, a little darker with age, and there were lines near his eyes that spoke of experience. But when he smiled, she felt the same spark she had tucked away years ago. "I can't believe this," she murmured. "It feels unreal." Their conversation began cautiously, like two people testing the strength of a bridge rebuilt after years of neglect. He told her about Chicago, where he had spent the last decade working in publishing. He admitted he had been engaged once, but it hadn't worked out. "We wanted different things," he said simply, his tone steady but carrying a shadow of regret. Emily shared pieces of her own life. She talked about her work in marketing, her love of photography, her attempts to find stability after heartbreak. She didn't go into every detail, but her words painted a picture of someone who had fought quietly through disappointments and still held onto hope. Time seemed to bend around them. Minutes stretched, and the noise of the cafe faded as they spoke. With every story, every pause, the space between them shrank. Emily found herself remembering the ease of their friendship, the way he had once been her safe place. And now, sitting across from him again, she wondered if that safety had ever truly left at one point. Daniel leaned back, studying her closely. "You look the same," he said softly. "Not exactly, of course, but you still have that look when you're lost in thought." Emily laughed nervously, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "And you still notice everything," she replied. A silence followed, but it wasn't empty. It carried weight, an undercurrent of something unsaid. Her chest tightened under his gaze, and she looked down at her coffee cup, unsure if he could hear the unsteady rhythm of her heartbeat. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "What were you doing with that cupcake earlier?" I saw the candle. Her cheeks warmed. "It was my birthday." Daniel's eyebrows lifted in surprise. "Your birthday? Emily, why didn't you say something?" "Happy birthday." His voice softened, almost tender. "You shouldn't be sitting alone on your birthday." She shrugged, forcing a smile. It's not that big a deal. I just wanted a quiet night. He tilted his head, unconvinced. Still, birthdays deserve at least one wish. Did you make one? The question sent a shiver through her. The memory of the candle, the secret words whispered in her heart, felt suddenly too raw to share. She gave a half-smile, trying to keep her tone light. If I tell you, it might not come true. Daniel's eyes lingered on hers, searching. I don't believe that, he said gently. Sometimes wishes only come true when we dare to speak them. Emily's throat tightened. She wanted to tell him everything that she had wished for love, the kind that stayed, and that somehow, impossibly, he had appeared just moments later. But fear held her back. After all these years, after all the scars she carried, could she trust a coincidence to mean more than chance? Instead, she changed the subject, asking about his father's bookstore. His face lit up as he explained that his dad had fallen ill, and he'd returned to help run it. It's small, tucked in the old part of town, he said, his eyes warm with affection. But it feels good to be surrounded by stories again. Books have always been my safe place. Emily smiled. That sounds like you. You always had a book in your bag, even during parties. He chuckled. And you always rolled your eyes when I quoted them. The memory made them both laugh, and for a moment, it felt like no years had passed at all. But then Daniel's phone buzzed on the table. His expression shifted as he glanced at the screen. A shadow passed over his face, and his shoulders tensed. He silenced the call but didn't look up right away. Emily waited, sensing the shift. Finally, he sighed. I'm sorry, Emily. I have to go. Something came up. Her heart sank, though she kept her smile steady. Of course. Life doesn't stop for coffee. He hesitated, as if torn. Can we meet again? Soon? I don't want this to be the last time. Her breath caught, a spark of hope flickering inside her. Yes, I'd like that. He stood, gathering his coat, and gave her one last look before heading toward the door. Emily watched him leave, her chest heavy with questions and possibilities. As the door swung shut behind him, she sat alone again at the corner table, but everything felt different now. The wish she had made still lingered in her mind, and though she hadn't spoken it aloud, she couldn't ignore the strange twist of fate. Daniel was back, and whether this was coincidence or destiny, her heart whispered that the story between them wasn't over. Emily sat at the cafe table long after Daniel left, the echo of his voice still in her ears. She replayed their conversation again and again, trying to make sense of it. The way he looked at her, the warmth in his tone, the hesitation before leaving, it all stirred something deep inside her. But there was also the silence, the things neither of them had said. Her birthday wish tugged at her thoughts, as if daring her to believe that fate was working quietly in her favor. The following days felt strangely restless. Emily went to work, answered emails, attended meetings, but her mind drifted. Every small pause in her day filled with memories of Daniel. The sound of his laugh, the way his hand had brushed against hers on the table, the softness in his eyes when he asked about her wish. All of it stayed with her. She tried to tell herself it was just old emotions resurfacing, a wave of nostalgia after an unexpected reunion. But deep down, she knew it was more. On Wednesday evening, she walked through downtown, her umbrella shielding her from the drizzle. Her feet carried her almost without thought toward the old district where Daniel had said his father's bookstore stood. She hadn't planned to visit, but the pull was too strong. She told herself she just wanted to see it, to understand a piece of his life now. When she found it, tucked between a bakery and a tailor's shop, her heart gave a small leap. The sign read Harper's Books, its letters worn but steady. Through the glass, she saw shelves stacked with novels, a warm light spilling across the floor. And behind the counter, Daniel stood, sorting through a box of paperbacks. Emily hesitated at the doorway, gathering courage. Then the bell above the door jingled softly as she stepped inside. Daniel looked up, startled, then smiled as recognition lit his face. "Emily." His voice carried both surprise and something softer relief. "I hope it's okay I came by," she said quickly. "I was in the neighborhood." "Of course it's okay." He came around the counter, brushing dust from his hands. "I didn't think I'd see you so soon." She smiled nervously, glancing around at the shelves. "It's cozy. It feels like you." He chuckled. "That's a compliment I'll gladly take." They walked slowly through the aisles, running their fingers along the spines of old books, trading small stories about favorite authors. But beneath the casual words, a current of unspoken tension flowed. Emily could feel it in the way Daniel's eyes lingered when she laughed, in the slight pause before his hand pulled back after brushing against hers. Finally, they sat at a small table near the back of the shop, the quiet of the store wrapped around them like a cocoon. Daniel leaned forward, his expression serious. "Emily, can I be honest with you?" Her heart pounded. "Always. I don't want to pretend like seeing you was just a coincidence. I mean, yes, it was chance that we were at the same cafe. But the moment I saw you, it felt like something I wasn't supposed to ignore." He hesitated, his voice low. "I left years ago, and I thought I'd moved on. But sitting across from you again, it felt like coming home." Emily's breath caught. The weight of his words sank into her, both warming and frightening her. She looked down at her hands, twisting them together. "Daniel." Her voice wavered. "Do you know how many times I wondered what happened to you? You disappeared. No calls, no letters. Just gone. And I told myself I had to stop caring." His eyes filled with regret. "I know, and I'm sorry. I was scared back then. I thought leaving was the right choice. That chasing work, chasing a future somewhere else, was what I needed. But I realize now that I lost something more important in the process." Silence stretched between them, heavy but tender. Emily wanted to believe him, wanted to reach across the table and hold on to what he was offering. But fear pressed in too. She had been hurt before. She had wished for love, but could she trust it when it suddenly appeared like this? Daniel reached out, his hand brushing hers lightly, not forcing, just waiting. "I don't expect you to forgive me instantly, but I want a chance to show you I mean what I'm saying." Emily lifted her gaze to his, her chest tightening. In his eyes, she didn't see games or empty promises. She saw a man who had lived, lost, and returned with something real. Her heart raced, but words refused to form. She pulled her hand back gently, not rejecting him, but not ready to accept either. "I don't know," she whispered. "It feels too big, too sudden. I don't even know what to think." Daniel nodded, though disappointment flickered across his face. "I understand. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere this time." Before she could reply, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at the screen, his brow furrowing. He excused himself, answering quietly, his voice low and urgent. Emily couldn't hear the words, but she saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his hand rubbed his forehead. When he returned, his expression was heavy. "I'm sorry," he said, regret in every syllable. "I need to take care of something. But Emily, please don't let this be the last time. Come back. Talk to me again." She nodded slowly, hiding the swirl of emotions in her chest. "Okay," He gave her a small, grateful smile before hurrying out. Emily remained seated at the little table, the shelves of books towering silently around her. Her heart felt torn open, hope on one side, fear on the other dot as she stood to leave. Her eyes landed on a book lying abandoned on the counter. Its title read Second Chances. She picked it up for a moment, her lips curving into a faint smile, before setting it back down. Walking out into the night, the cool air hit her cheeks, and she whispered to herself words she wasn't ready to say to Daniel yet. My wish was for love. And now you're here. She pulled her coat tighter and kept walking, unaware that her wish had already begun to unravel the life she thought she knew, drawing her into a story she could never have written herself. Emily stood outside Harper's Books 2 days later, her heart racing. The last time she had seen Daniel, he had left suddenly, leaving her torn between hope and doubt. But tonight, something in her urged her to go back. The rain had stopped, and the cool Seattle evening carried the smell of wet pavement and coffee, drifting from the cafe down the street. She took a deep breath, pushed open the door, and stepped inside. The bell above the door chimed, and Daniel looked up from behind the counter. His eyes widened in surprise before softening into a smile. Emily, he said, his voice filled with both relief and warmth. You came. She nodded, suddenly shy. I told you I might. The bookstore was quiet, only the faint hum of a lamp and the rustle of pages filling the air. Emily wandered through the shelves as Daniel approached. He stopped a few feet from her, watching as she traced her fingers along the spines of books. I wasn't sure if I'd scared you away, he admitted. You didn't, she said softly. But you did make me think. He tilted his head. About what? About us, she answered, turning to face him. About what it means to see you again after all these years. About how sometimes life feels like it's circling back to something we thought we lost. Daniel's eyes searched hers, and for a moment neither of them spoke. Finally, he stepped closer, lowering his voice. Emily, I don't want to waste any more time. I can't change the past, but I can tell you the truth. I cared about you back then, more than I ever admitted. And when I saw you again, it all came back. Stronger. Clearer. I don't want to run from that anymore. Her heart pounded. His words pierced through every wall she had built around herself. Still she hesitated. Daniel, you can't just walk back into my life and expect everything to fall into place. I've been hurt. I've wished for something real, something lasting. I can't go through another heartbreak. He reached for her hand gently, his touch steady. Then let me prove to you that I'm not here to break you. I'm here because I believe we were meant to find each other again. Emily's eyes filled with tears. She had promised herself she wouldn't cry, but the weight of the moment was overwhelming. She squeezed his hand, then whispered, almost trembling, Do you want to know what I wished for on my birthday? Daniel nodded, his gaze fixed on her. I wished for love, she said, her voice cracking. Not just any love, but the kind that stays. The kind that doesn't walk away. And when I opened my eyes, you were standing there. Daniel's breath caught. For a moment, he looked stunned, almost unable to process her words. Then his expression softened into something deeper, something unshakable. Emily, he said quietly, maybe that wasn't just a coincidence. Maybe your wish was always waiting for the right time. They stood there in the middle of the bookstore, surrounded by shelves filled with stories of every kind, and for the first time in years, Emily felt like she was living one herself. Daniel moved closer, not rushing, just letting the space between them disappear. He held her hands firmly, grounding her. I don't know where this will lead, but I know I don't want to miss the chance to find out. Not this time. Emily swallowed hard, her tears spilling softly. And what if I'm too scared to believe it? Then I'll wait, he said simply. As long as it takes. The simplicity of his answer broke something inside her, not in pain, but in release. She let out a shaky laugh, wiping her cheeks. You always did know how to say exactly what I needed to hear. He smiled. And you always pretended you didn't like it. They laughed together, the tension easing, replaced by something lighter, more certain. For the first time that week, Emily felt her heart unclench. She realized